have a seat on our lovely Nordic wooden benches. I love this set here. So your background, both working in innovation and also in industry, and well known here in Finland, but especially for our international audience. Just tell us a little bit about Konecranes and the different aspects of your business.
Sure. So Konecranes is a world leader in material handling solutions. And with over 400 billion of sales, we have about 16,500 employees. And we operate in over 50 countries with 3 business areas: industrial service, industrial equipment with cranes, hoists, and winches, and port solutions with container handling solutions. Our history goes back over 100 years, and with a strong track record of growth through M&A as well as organic. And maybe one quick interesting fact, which is that according to the UN, about 80% of the globally traded goods are moved through maritime transport, which means that there is a very high likelihood that something important to you actually has been moved by Konecranes solutions. And that's actually exactly the point of our brand campaign that we are launching this week here at the Forum, which is about our brand promise, and that is that Konecranes moves what matters.
And that's interesting because we've been speaking earlier on in the day about geopolitical tensions and disruptions potentially caused by aggression from Russia and other factors, and the importance of needing to have strong logistical connections and maritime connections within Europe. And another kind of side effects of this geopolitical tension is, though, that there has been a lot more attention recently on traditional industries here in Europe and trying to kind of revive some of the things that Europe does well, rather than farming out supply chains or looking abroad for cheaper solutions. So kind of reflecting on that, I was curious to know the opportunities it's bringing for you, but also the challenges for you personally as a business around these tensions.
Yes, in short, we have adjusted well to the uncertainty and the tensions. And also historically, those periods of change have actually rather benefited us. And on opportunities, I will touch on automation. So the current situation clearly is probably one of the sharpest and longest period of change since the fall of the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
And our strong earnings show that we are coping well. Also, we are benefiting from our global business model. Also, the fact that our customers' industry are very diverse. So it's really putting us in a good position to ride uncertainty. Now, I'm not going to claim that, we love tariffs because they pretty much hurt everyone, and stability and predictability are the best friends of business. However, again, historically, we've seen that those changes in the supply chain have actually been in our favor and have created opportunities. And the reason for that is that when production relocates or trade routes change, typically there is a need for a new material handling equipment. So maybe coming back on the automation, it's clear today that the automation is further enabled by artificial intelligence, machine learning, as well as Internet of Things. And Konecranes have been engaged in that on those topics for a while. For example, we opened our data science lab in Lyon in 2019 already. And so today, with over 30,000 pieces of connected equipment, we really are able to leverage massive amounts of data for the benefit of our customers. And one example as an application is predictive maintenance.
Okay, so clearly a lot going on the digital side to adapt, but another key challenge for your industry, for all industries around Europe, is sustainability, and heavy industry not traditionally known for being a low emitting industry. So tell us a little bit about that and how you're working to improve things there.
Yes, so here I need to talk about our own emissions, also the value chain emissions, and circularity. We first focused on reducing our own emissions, and that is through energy efficiency, as well as using renewable energy. And actually, we've been able to reduce our emissions by 56% which is ahead of our 2030 target. Also last week, we received the highest rating possible from EcoVadis, that is platinum, and I think that really highlights our commitment.
So what are you doing differently from others to have reached that target so soon?
Well, I think we've been very proactive, and we've also engaged, our people in the field. So we are very pragmatic as to where can we find those energy efficiencies. So that's been really important. Coming back to the value chain, I need to say that our own emissions are only a fraction of the total value chain. And so it's also very crucial that we also focus on reducing the emission from the use of our product. And here we're tackling this through electrification, as well as using low carbon alternatives to key raw materials, such as steel. Be a quick word on electrification, where by 2026 we will have a full portfolio of electrical options. One of the challenges is the pace at which the customers' industries are changing. And so here, of course, there is a lot to do, but clearly having predictable and clear government policies is really important, as is also the collaboration of the whole supply chain, so we can actually move in this transition together.
Finally, wrap up briefly. We've got a few more topics to try and cover, but go ahead.
Lastly, I just want to touch on circularity, because, reusing, remanufacturing, repairing, obviously is reducing waste, but also reducing the dependency on volatile supply chain, and that's what we're talking about here. And actually at Konecranes, we have been deep into circularity for a while, because our material solutions actually are made to last for decades, and that is further enabled by a full life cycle offering of services.
You touched earlier on how you're trying to make a difference, but generally you are working with and within some fairly slow-moving industries that maybe haven't always been the quickest to adapt, maybe not the sort of sexiest industries that graduates want to join. But we are seeing shifts when Gen Z are interviewed and surveyed these days. There's a lot more demand for working in stable industries with longevity, whereas millennials, I think, were a bit more looking into job hopping, influencer-style jobs, creativity. Are you seeing that sort of play out in the kind of people that are approaching you, and how are you trying to make your industry attractive to young talent right now?
So here I need to start by saying that we are where we are today thanks to our great teams, and I think also to our ability to attract and retain strong talent. And our value proposition has resonated with people that we've hired in the past, and that is really around. I guess maybe the best example, the best proof here is that we have about a 10-year tenure on average for Konecranes employees.
10 years, a tenure.
Yes,
that's really
long. Exactly, and I think that illustrates really that we are offering an attractive culture, career and development opportunities. Also, another reference point is a recent survey actually ranked us 6 out of 50 Finnish companies for attractiveness with young job seekers. And so, back to your question, I think it's really about, we feel a strong sense of purpose, and also leadership in technology, as well as responsible business conduct. I would also say resilience are all attributes that actually matter to many Gen Zers and even beyond. And one last thing would be our inclusive culture, which is highlighted by an inclusion index of over 80%. So, is it easy? No, it's not. And as we heard on the stage earlier, also it's also about staying future-proof.
Yeah.
So we know that we need to be continuously working towards, staying relevant and attractive. And of course, it takes work. But at the end of the day, it's been my experience that really, if you nurture your diverse talent as the most precious asset in your company, it's a really key success factor for the long term. And I think as leaders here and managers, there is a lot we can do in that regard.
And plenty of academic studies and data show that. And we'll be discussing diversity and inclusion a little bit later on in this session as well with some of our next guests. But just another final question, sort of based on your own experience, really. Before working at Konecranes, you actually worked for a hydrogen startup. And I'm just wondering, what do you think more traditional industries can learn from startups and vice versa, especially in these volatile times?
Yeah, I was fortunate to actually have experience in both startup and large organizations, and they are quite different environments, that's for sure. We've also had our share of significant disruptions in the last 20 years. Maybe to summarize, I would say that startup really live in scarcity and urgency. And very often you don't worry about even next year. It's more like next month or next week. So that's really pushing them to be very bold, but also very innovative and fast. Sometimes, though, it can be at the expense of actually losing track of the long-term perspective, and obviously that can be very fatal. On the other hand, I've seen that large organizations have the luxury of resources and time, and therefore they can actually keep this long-term perspective, stay the course with strategy execution. However, sometimes it can be actually at the expense of being agile to really see disruptions that actually they could benefit from and adjusting in a more proactive fashion. So it's almost like, the strength of one is the weakness of the other.
Yeah, exactly. And it's hard to find that balance, but something that everyone strives for in business, I think, at the moment. Just briefly then, so strategy's also formed a core part of your career. If you could give one strategic tip to the business leaders here for navigating, moving forward in uncertain times, what would it be?
That's a really big question. If I had the answer, I probably would be not here. But anyway,
you're on this stage because you have the expertise.
Yes. So I would say the one thing to say is that clearly volatility and uncertainty are part of the landscape, and so it's important that they are really now embedded into the strategy. And to me, what that means is that the long-term vision and goals have to be even more clear and crisp than they've ever been before. Because we know that the execution path is not going to be linear. There will be obstacles and distractions. And so keeping this northern light really up there is really important. And the second tip I would say is really also about being able as leaders to recognize those disruptions that actually are real opportunities. So that instead of kind of fighting them, we kind of embrace them and allow the organization to actually transform maybe at a faster pace.
Super. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. That's all we've got time for. Please give it up for Christine George.
Thank you.
Thank you.